So that's a little behind the scenes into why I look at the races I look at.
Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go.
Hi, welcome back. It's Adrian the Mountain Man. This week I wanted to talk about my process of being able to compete in one of my bucket list races, which is the UTMB, which takes place in Switzerland. If you're not familiar, it's similar. If you're a road runner, it's similar to the Boston Marathon. There's a qualification process that happens. Unlike the Boston Marathon has time qualifiers, so you have to meet a certain time qualifier in order to enter into the race. The UTMB has a pretty convoluted process of running different races, and then there's a lottery. So previously, if you've been following my channel, you know I signed up for the Midstate Massive this past October. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to do that because I caught COVID like the day before the race, and I wasn't able to do it. But the reason I signed up for the Midstate Massive is the previous process for entering UTMB was you had to do two UTMB qualifying races. And there were several of them, I think 700 or something like that. And what you would do is you would have to run and you would get UTMB points. So for example, if you wanted to run the 100 miler, which is technically the UTMB, they also have 100K and shorter races. But if you wanted to run the 100 race, the UTMB, you had to essentially run two 100-mile races within the previous 2 years, and that gave you 5 points, and so you needed 10 in order to get into the UTMB 100. Midstate Massive was one of those qualifying races. I did my first 100 was the Umstead 100. That's very local, just kind of see if I could do it. Once I knew that I could do that, I wanted to go head first into trying to get into UTMB, so I signed up for the Midstate Massive 100, and then I was going to sign up for another race in the spring just to try and get all the points I could as early as I could, and then begin that application process. With UTMB, there, like I mentioned before, there's a lottery. So the way they did it before was you would enter the lottery. If you didn't get in after 2 years, your third year you were automatically in. I wanted to get in my UTMB races and points as soon as I could. Unfortunately, this year, after this year's race, they completely changed the rules. And now you have to run a UTMB qualifier, which gives you what they call a running stone. No idea where this term comes from. And then once you have your running stones, which that allows you to enter the lottery, you also have to run what's called an index race. The unfortunate thing is the qualifying races, at least in the United States, have gone from hundreds to three races that you can run in order to get into the UTMB, to be able to qualify to get into the lottery. One of the 3 races in the United States to qualify for the UTMB is the Western States. Now, if you know anything about the Western States, there's a lottery and a whole entry process for that as well, which can take years. Also, on a personal note, although I would love to run Western States from, it looks beautiful, I know it's a challenging course, I know it's a lot of street cred, or I'll call it trail cred. If you've been following the channel, you know that I am not good and I'm not really interested in running in the heat. Bar that, I would love to do Western States, and maybe I will one day, but without doing Western States, that leaves 2 races that you can do. One is the Canyon runs in California, and the last one is the Speedgoat 50k, and that's what I've signed up for. I've watched some footage of the races, and it just looks gorgeous. Just looks very beautiful. It kind of reminds me of UTMB and why I want to do UTMB. I just love being up in the mountains, and the channel name, and it just looks like a similar experience to what UTMB would be. This is why I've signed up for the Speedgoat 50k. Even though I've been moving towards longer races, 50s and 100s, this is a really tough race. It's 50k. It's got almost 12,000. It's 11,400 feet of gain. You know, some of the elites are running, in the 5-6 hour range. So for me, it's probably going to be quite a lot longer than that. But in order to get to that ultimate goal, that bucket list race, I've decided, or they've decided for me, that this is what I'm gonna do. So let me know if you guys have any bucket list races. One of my previous bucket list races was Pikes Peak Marathon. I did that last July. I loved that race. I grew up in New Hampshire, and I've run the Mount Washington Road Race, which is a very short race compared to these. It's 7.6 miles, but just all up the whole way. Also the Shut-In Ridge Run, which is in Asheville, North Carolina. I went to school just outside of Asheville, college, and always wanted to do that run, but I could never do it during college because it was during cross-country season. So I'm moving up in my checking off these bucket list races. I don't know what's gonna top UTMB. On the other hand, it seems like this is gonna be a multi-year process. I'm sure I'll find other bucket list races in the interim. Arc of Attrition in the UK, it sounds amazing. Sounds terrible and amazing, but that's the kind of thing I'm into. Oh, it's gonna be really rainy and just miserable. I like those kinds of things. I'm kind of at the point in my career where I'm not chasing speed as much as I used to. Obviously, races that I've done, like I did the Umstead 100 this year. I want to take off time going into it next year. Same with some of these other races. But for the most part, I'm looking for something really hard and kind of just challenging from a mental standpoint. Physically, although I don't think I can win these races, I feel like I'm capable of finishing them. So it's more of a perseverance from a mental standpoint. So that's a little behind the scenes into why I look at the races I look at. And I still, like I said, I've signed up for 50k this January. That looks pretty fast, chasing a fast time. So I still do have that element in my training, in my racing. But for the most part, I'm looking for more challenging things. And again, not under any delusion that I'm gonna win or anything like that. But for me, that's a lot of fun. What's really hard? What's got a lot of elevation? I'd rather, I mentioned earlier that I'm not really a heat runner, but I'd rather suffer in the snow or the rain than I would in the heat. But maybe that's something I need to look at. For me, that's a mentally challenging thing. So maybe in the end, I really need to start focusing on that because that is something that I do have a hard time with. So note to self, maybe I need to look into something like that. That's my exciting news for the week. I've signed up for a race that will eventually lead to my bucket list race. Taking the first steps towards that. This week I start my training for the Umstead 100, which is in about 6 months. I've got several races in between now and then, but look forward to more outdoor footage as I get back out there. I know the last few weeks have been kind of static with me, like in the house or just standing and talking, but we'll get back to the outdoor footage with me running and just chatting about all things ultra running. I'd like to thank you for sticking around to the end of the video. As a reminder, I am a race ambassador for the High Volta Thurman Ultra and Relay. They have a 50-miler, a 50K, and a 50-mile relay. This takes place in West Virginia in May. I have a discount code MountainMan10. I'll put it on the screen for 10% off your race registration. If you enjoyed this video, I would appreciate a like. We're also getting towards the end of the year. I've got 169 subscribers. I would love to hit 200 by the end of the year, so if you enjoy all things ultra running, please subscribe and stay tuned for more videos like this. Alright, I'll talk to you guys next week. Thank you so much.